It's the Star Wars electronic laser battle game, battery not included.
It's set to Sonic Speed 3.
Ready? Go! You can play it alone or with a friend. If you hit your buttons first, you move yourself forward. Or your opponent backward. But if you jump the signal, it's a flash ahead for the other guy. First to light up Death Star wins.
Yay! I win!
The Star Wars electronic laser battle game. It's a game with lights and sounds, new from Kenner's Star Wars collection.
Burger Chef introduces Star Wars Fun Meals for your kids. A hamburger, french fries, and Coca-Cola. Imagine how much fun your kids will have. Star Wars Fun Meals. Collect all 7. Only at Burger Chef.
All right, folks, welcome to Star Wars Day. Hopefully you're having a good one. That's right. We're celebrating the 25th. That's right. The anniversary of the first film. And we thought, just some general conversation, some memories, and some show and tell would be kind of fun. And to do that, I got this guy back in the house with me. He was here last year. He did the 2024 with me. We couldn't even scratch the surface, dude, of some of the stuff that you actually still have in that story. But the link is in the description, folks, for you to kind of get more of the origin stories and some of his inspirations, his journey through Trek and Star Wars, and some of the things that he talked about during that show. And if you haven't seen it, he's on with me pretty regularly now. So make sure you check out some of those great conversations we've been enjoying. But Baron, my brother, happy Star Wars Day to you, my friend.
Happy Orthodox Star Wars Day to you, my friend. Thank you for having me here, as always. And I don't mind celebrating both of them. That's why I think those that follow the Orthodox religion have it the best off. They celebrate 2 Christmases and 2 Easters. It's like best of all worlds.
Yeah, so when I did this for the first time, I only did like one stream in 2022 with Mags.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a couple guests on, and we talked about how, look, I'm okay with the whole May the 4th, Revenge of the Sith, Revenge of the 5th, George Lucas's birthday, the anniversary of so many of these movies that come out. It's sort of like Star Wars month. And Angry Canadians kind of embraced that. He said instead of streaming for nearly 20 hours or whatever insanity he did last year, he's just going to do stuff throughout the whole month. And so that's probably a better, healthier strategy. And I will be honest, and I will try to remember to say this throughout the day, folks. So if you haven't heard it, yes, I will probably not be doing this next year because Star Wars Day, the 25th, falls on Memorial Day. And it feels a little weird to do this on Memorial Day. So we'll probably take a year off, but that's okay because 2027 is the 50th anniversary, Baron. And that is tough to hear yourself say out loud. 50 years, my friend. We're only a little bit apart. We remember seeing this in theater as little kiddos in elementary school, and our lives would be changed. 50 years. That's
I know, but it's such an amazing, wonderful trip. And just like you said about May, I mean, up until Disney, every Star Wars release was in May. May 23rd, 1983, Return of the Jedi. On and on. I mean, I can't remember all the other dates, but those are the 2 dates because they're so close together, the 25th and the 23rd. I get it mixed up. Okay, it's the younger one that's got the higher number, and it's the newer one that's got the lower number. It's just confusing me. But it's great. I mean, what a trip. What a wild, wonderful trip this has been for Star Wars fans. We've had our ups and downs. I'm not talking about the current time, but I mean, after the trilogy, there was a bit of what you call that Star Wars fatigue, and it kind of went down. It wasn't worth anything. That was a good thing because people like Dark Horse Comics, things like West End Games were able to get the license for cheap. And my word, what lore did we get out of that? Because they loved Star Wars so much that they made sure that they tried to do as best as possible to make it a natural, organic growth.
Yeah, it was nice. And I'm going to have a show today, folks. If you haven't seen that show, make sure you check out the playlist there for that. Some folks are going to come on with me. We're going to kind of talk about the timeline a little bit from, kind of a little bit before the movie releases, but also kind of through the 90s. Some of these big moments like the record, this lull before we got toys. Then, you kind of have this sort of lag time with different things. And it really kind of set up the the first phase of filtering true Star Wars fans from non-Star Wars fans is those of
Mhm.
us that were scouring the flea markets in the late 80s and early 90s
Mhm.
for Star Wars merch. And we were kind of alone in a lot of that. Didn't sell a lot of Star Wars stuff back then. I
No.
really have to talk about the holiday feel of going and standing in line for the Timothy Zahn book, making sure I got the very
Mhm.
first one the first day. Getting my Dark Star Wars Dark Empire. Yes, I have my graded copy on the wall back there. So it is so special to know that it came. And I don't know about you, but it there's not a way to put it into words. So I always go back to Hopewell Elementary, young little pops, and we were trying to negotiate with the cafeteria ladies who ultimately become in cahoots with the teachers. If we could behave properly, we could get the little cards that were in the Wonder Bread. We were using pens and things that we were allowed to pretend with in school to have pretend rebel versus empire battles in the gymnasium and recesses because it was in Indiana, so there'd be snow outside. So
Mhm.
during the summer, we were in trouble for losing toys in the yard. We would bury them in the sand. We put them. I got in trouble for putting them in the freezer. I would do whatever. It just, and yet at the same time, I was still not even privy to what a game changer this was. It's now that I've become older through the
Yeah.
years. My wife and I are currently when this is being recorded, we are currently watching Flash Gordon. And
Ooh.
Flash Gordon always felt like it was before Star Wars, and yet it didn't get made until because of Star Wars. Like it took Star
Right.
Wars getting made for it to get greenlit.
Mhm.
So it's funny how much stuff changed and how influenced we are by all
Mhm.
of this. And again, like I said, we're cut from about the same age. We're only a little bit
Right.
a year apart. So it is a little bit to that, folks, that, Baron, what was it like for you being that young kid? Like, holy cow, the imagination bubble just burst wide open.
Yeah, it was a game changer. It kicked the doors open on me. It kicked the doors open for me liking science fiction, science fantasy, which Star Wars is. Fantasy even more so. I guess I was a little bit more in the fantasy back then. Science fiction was not something that interested me because it scared the dickens out of me as a kid.
Mm.
Uh, but then this, I was dragged to see it. I mean, my father dragged me to see Star Wars. And he made me watch the making of special with William Conrad doing the voice. Magnificent voice he had, and going through it's like, see, you want to see this, and it's like, okay, I give in. And obviously, it wasn't early. That special came out way later after the release of Star Wars. The theaters were still packed. They
Hmm.
were still packed. I remember being in that lobby at the Southdale 123, and it was just full of people. I felt like a sardine in a sardine can. And it's like, oh, yeah, I recognize somebody over there from school going to see
Hmm.
it. It's like, oh, this is kind of cool. For me, it's like, this is cool. Somebody from that I know is coming to see this, not with me, but with their own family. So this, that kind of gave me a little bit of an awakening that how big this really was. I was even fully aware how big Star Wars was until I
Yeah.
was in that lobby before I even saw that film, and it was magical from that first moment on. I'm sure if people watch the other one, I probably said this, but you sit in the theater, you have that wonderful 20th Century Fox extended fanfare and going into the Lucasfilm, and then it's just quiet. And a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away on the screen, everything's silent, and then it explodes, and it's like, okay, that's it, we're lost. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, what's going on? It's like, oh, now I got to read. Okay, so this is a period of civil war, rebel starships, right? And it's like, I'm a kid, I don't want to read, but it's like you get wrapped up. It tells so much of the story, bringing you up to speed of what's going on, and then, of course, the famous overshot, the rebel cruiser and the star destroyer,
Yeah.
which is so iconic. I mean, other people have done it. Space 1999 did it for the small screen for one of the stories. Virtually, it was kind of copied from that, but it didn't. Obviously, from the small screen with Space 1999 to the big screen in Star Wars, a world of difference. a world of difference. It's like, okay, I'm lost. This is my universe now. Can I live here?
You brought up something I don't think I've ever talked about, and it made me really. I've been thinking about this a little bit recently because of this. I call it the age of mediocrity that we're in right now, and
Mhm.
I feel I don't know that because Star Wars. First off, I was a little too young to go see Jaws in theaters. I've
Mhm.
said time and time again, my aunt should never have taken me to see Jaws. I cried and wouldn't get in the bathtub. So, um, I don't remember going to most movies other than like dollar theater type stuff around
Mhm.
that age. But Jaws was
Yeah.
his first big blockbuster. Then, of course, the Star Wars experience.
Mhm.
I kind of feel like I grew up thinking this was kind of the norm for people going to the movies. Like I grew up thinking that a lot of people would go to the movies. Like it didn't occur to me as a kid how big things were because I ended up seeing
Right.
Star Wars in the theater 6 times. I remember because it was a bragging thing of how many times you could get to see Star Wars. Now again, it's been re-released. It was re-released several times over the
Yeah.
course of a couple years.
Mhm.
But Superman, of course, comes out 78. You have the
Mhm.
sequels that come out for Star Wars. Indiana Jones, of course, is a big thing. And then you lead into, by the time you get into the mid 80s, you're looking at, Terminator, Back to the Future, or just
Mhm.
the blockbuster phenomenon stuff for us was like so big. Yeah, it was really a special time. And now because of the Googleplex, we don't really have the same type of experience because it's not rare to get a seat. It's pretty
Right.
easy to get a seat, but back then it was hard to get seats.
Yeah, and you're packed in there. It's like you better be friendly. That's
Mhm.
it's like, okay, hi, nice to meet you. You know, and I do want to take a couple steps back to you're talking about one of my favorite films as well, Flash Gordon.
Mhm.
Uh, what a wonderful homage to that that franchise, that story, that legend, that lore, and it's how Lucas wanting to do that originally. He wanted to do Flash
Mhm.
Gordon, was told no. It's like, okay, fine, I'm going to go do my own Flash Gordon with cantinas and dancing slave girls, like Bender does, and uh, open the door for doing that one. And what a wonderful job they did with that, making it an homage. Even though it's the age of Star Wars, this could have been easily a Star Wars knockoff, even though much of the influence was from Flash Gordon. It made its own, and it stayed in its lane. It was so beautiful. And Lucas, he's opening a new door for a new universe. He's making his own roads now. But he's even fully aware, okay, if I'm making the roads, I got to have these curbs. And I can't go over these curbs. But I can't stay down that middle line. So it's just brilliant how one failure leads to success, that it leads to that failure being made and becoming a viable product.
Yeah, he even talks about how nobody expected this to be what it was. I mean, obviously, there's all sorts of stories where he even shows it among the other directors, and most of them are like, "Oh, poor George," "Oh, how sad." They didn't get it. You have a few people like Spielberg. Spielberg got it. He goes, "It's
Yeah,
simple and it's fun. You're gonna have
yeah.
fun with this, George. It's good. It's gonna go good." But he had kept the rights and the licensing for the toys, and that's where he made all the cash that was able to be a kind of a game changer to build Lucasfilm. And of
Mhm.
course, he was also able to bump up budget requests from Fox for Empire and going forward. So it is just a fascinating story, like you say, where it changes so many things in so many
Mhm.
ways that a day like today is important because we can just talk about a lot of that. And hopefully people can kind of go, "Oh, I didn't know that." And then just go down the rabbit hole, folks, because we can not
Yeah.
do justice to how deep and wide some of these stories go. Because, like you were talking about, you made reference to I made a note of making the making of documentary that was,
Mhm.
from our childhood. And I wonder if I
Right.
could even get a copy of that free on YouTube. Where is it? Can we
So,
include clips from it or not? I don't know. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. So.
Hollywood, California, August 1977.
R2-D2, hurry up. Everyone's waiting for you.
C-3PO and R2-D2 are reunited for the first time since their epical appearance in Star Wars. George Lucas, 33 years old.
I think one of the key factors in the success is that it's a positive film. It has heroes and villains. It is a fun movie to watch. It's been a long time since people have been able to go to the movies and see a sort of straightforward, wholesome, fun adventure.
Yeah, I mean,
With that, I
I
thought,
don't know how many boxes of Fruit Loops I had to eat to get that free videotape back in the '90s that they released
mm,
when they did the re-releases. They had that, okay, eat 5 boxes or whatever of Fruit Loops, and you get that videotape. So it's like, okay, load up the cart, we're gonna do it.
yeah,
But
yeah, that's true.
we talk about looking ahead. You would think that, and of course, this shows what the failure was, that the studios let this pass. The merchandising, the quotes, yogurt. Uh, Merchandising with these IPs didn't do well. Yeah, you had the $6 million man doll and some gadgets that go along with it, but it was just very limited. Space 1999 had. I mean, I wish I had that eagle. I wish I had that eagle, but I mean, really, honestly, there was not much you would get from merch. It wasn't a big seller. Even the Star Trek Migos, though, it's like, yeah, you got the crew, you had that little bridge thing, you could get some of the aliens, but really, it wasn't something that you could hang your hat on. For some reason, Lucas saw this. Kenner was unprepared, and
Yeah,
look what it's become.
he took the action figure size change, right? Because I think that's the
Yeah,
biggest piece of the equation that you
yeah,
didn't hit right there, and that was the fact that up until this point, most action figures and stuff are the large scale figures. Obviously, to do Star Wars, you can't have ships or anything like that. Lucas
mhm,
had the wherewithal, the childlike instincts to understand imagination and how children would play. To
right,
go, we need to scale these down to that 3 3/4,
yeah,
and of course that's what Kenner was throwing for a loop. But they were smart enough to at least kind of hang in there and figure that
hmm,
out.
Star Wars figures. R2-D2. Chewbacca, Luke, and Princess Leia. They're the Star Wars Early Bird set of figures. These action figures are not yet available, but this Star Wars Early Bird certificate package is in stores with this colorful Star Wars picture display stand and certificate to send in to get a set of figures by mail. They'll be sent to you at home between February 1st and June 1st. The Star Wars Early Bird certificate package, new from Kenner.
I
and
thought you were going to go down the rabbit hole of how bad merchandising has become, because I feel like that's where this is
oh,
the glory age of everything changes because of Star
mhm,
Wars, and it doesn't
right,
stop for decades.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to go into the negative area because for this merchandising was such a popular thing. I wouldn't
Hmm.
doubt it. I mean, now, he had Brian Johnson on staff doing the special effects, who worked on Space 1999, which I think some of that was the inspiration for some of the scenes. But I wouldn't doubt if Space 1999, what they had for their merchandising, was an influence. But the big failure with those were that you had the figures about that size, which I'm sure George goes, "Oh yeah, that's right." I mean, this is all conjecture,
Hmm.
but they were stiff. Whereas
Yep.
the one was in a sitting position, always a sitting position. I think Koenig and Barbara Bain's character got mental block on her character's name. They were standing, but again, static. So what can you do with it? You only one person can go in the cockpit. What if you want Koenig in there? You can't do that. And what if you want the guy who's a
Yep.
pilot? So then you had that forethought. Okay, we do it that size, but we make it movable, like the GI Joe or whatnot you have out there.
Yeah, it definitely moves everything forward. And, there's still a lot of evolution that needed to come, because even with our Star Wars figures, they didn't have a lot of articulation. But the 90s, they
No,
corrected that. We had our first level up. And of course, then it
hmm,
kind of kept spiraling from there as the prequel series kind of unfolded. And you ended up with just an amazing line
yeah,
of details and articulation, weapons and accessories
hmm,
and stuff like that. So,
Star Wars. New Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jango Fett electronic battling figures.
Don't move, Jedi.
You control every battle and all the action. Star Wars electronic battling Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jango Fett, each sold separately.
let me do my first show and tell, because I haven't done anything on these. They are new. That's another reason why I've never done anything on this. They actually are the new Star Wars Galaxy series, one of the new ones. So this definitely would have been in the Disney era. Let me see if I can go ahead and let's see if I can change
oh,
cameras here to make this a little bit better for folks to see. So yeah, this is going to work better. So
that's
let's
beautiful.
yeah, so there's a whole set of these cards, and there are several Star Wars Galaxies that have happened over the last few years,
Hmm,
and the art it's very similar to what came along in the '90s when they started doing Star Wars Galaxy cards. I kept a set of the blues back. So there's a regular set that are silver, there's blue and green. The only difference is the little foil stamp at the bottom right there. These are blue.
Yeah.
They're just like, they're less common. So I think out of a pack, out of every pack, 3 packs, you get a blue or a green, and then they have parallels that are different colors, and obviously orange and purples, and they're all serial numbered, and they're exceedingly rare and kind of expensive. I have a few of the purples left, but I always love the fact that you can get into just beautiful artwork, beautiful stuff that even though they're a newer product, you can have some really fun stuff to, and again, there are some stuff. This is a prequel. Look at this beautiful, Captain Rex. For those prequel babies that are out there, Captain Rex looking pretty good. Wish it focused better. Doesn't want to do that. This came out, I believe. This is around 2017. I think it's 2017. I think it's right after Force Last Jedi. I don't know for sure when this one's from. But I mean, I've always had good luck selling the old Boba Fett cards. Obviously, one of the more popular characters that was always been out there for sure.
Yep.
But even then, it may not be among our favorites. But let's face it, there is some cool elements of the design and art for Kylo Ren, and shame on them for not being able to handle all of that better.
Yeah, I know. That's what we felt shorted on that one, because we felt those characters and the new ones and the old ones were done a disservice. And it's like David Dorman, who did a lot of the artwork back. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, Dave Dorman did those Dark Horse comic covers.
Right, and a lot of those went over to, and he did artwork for those cards. Topps always did it right. Oh, that was like the cover for Tales of the Bounty Hunter.
Isn't that nice? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Oh,
it's kind of an homage to that cover for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so lots of good stuff. Look at this beautiful Phantom Menace, dual face type card. So beautiful cards. These are not expensive. They're not super pricey. I don't think I have sets to sell anymore. I do have some individual cards left, but I sold most things. But yeah, it's kind of fun that, even with some of the newer stuff, there are good pieces in there, guys. Don't get caught up with all the negative. Don't let it totally ruin things for you. Because if you really do love Troopers or Boba Fett or Vader or something like that, continue to, get a few things here and there. You just find some love. Like I have a new, it's a Marvel comic. I get it. But it's a beautiful Darth Vader Virgin cover. Maybe I'll go get it while Barrett's showing something off. I'll go get it off the shelf so you guys can see how beautiful it is and why I'm still a sucker. I can't help it. I'm still a sucker. So.
Oh yeah, we all are. It was good. It was good.
You have a long track record of stuff that you were able to keep from your childhood, and then obviously you've picked up stuff over the years, things like that. What's something that you've got earmarked to share with us this morning?
Well, since you brought, I can't remember if I showed this one off or not. But
doesn't matter.
You showed off Boba Fett, I love how they did a figure of him. Originally he was supposed to stay white. Look how beautiful that is. And I think they changed it because it identified too much with the stormtroopers. Like hard to tell the stormtroopers from Boba. But it kind of has that little harken that the stormtroopers, which kind of came into legend, came from the Mandalorians, or the Mandalorians were somehow involved with stormtroopers, which of course we obviously when the prequels came around was the truth. The clone troopers evolving into stormtroopers. But yeah, I'm glad they didn't go with the all white. He looked so cool, with the banged up armor and the different colors on that. But yeah, I like that one design still. It's like, okay, this is like a new dimension on that, of the what if stories if Lucas didn't go with the story that he did with the prequel. But even in the Dark Horse comics, they were sit back saying, in Dark Empire, it's like, we know what you were. You were some stormtrooper or whatever, that he was being accused of by stormtroopers. And he doesn't give a definitive answer because it's supposed to be a mystery.
Since we briefly touched on the cards, this is one of the sets from the 90s. So this is Star Wars Galaxy Series 2. So this would be 1994. So it came out 93, 94, 95 for the 3 series. This is actually the factory set. So it's a metal case. So this is what the lid looks like. Oh, I got to change the camera.
I've never seen that. I honestly have never seen that.
Yeah. So the factory set comes like that. Let me change the camera so it's easier.
I'm jealous.
So the factory set comes in like it's a tin, and you open it up, and then your factory set is serial numbered.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. There you go, like that. Comes a little box, the whole thing. Now this one, it just over time, this just wears out because it was just like a tape from 30 something years ago.
Dries up, way it goes.
Yeah. So then you can take your little cards out of here. And the factory sets have these foil stamps on them. The cards are the same otherwise.
Oh, that's a wonderful one, though. That card is wonderful. Luke and Vader face to face like that.
Yeah. Some beautiful, beautiful stuff in here. This is one of the famous ones with them dueling.
Oh, yeah. Kind of taking a bit of the, some of the poster art and, making it comic book and looking awesome. We need more art like that in comics.
Yeah. And they reprint the exact Dave Dorman covers that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dark Empire.
Dark Empire, yeah. So they have all of the different covers for that, and you can you go through the entire series. So yeah, it's a nice set. It really is. I do have a lot of Star Wars Galaxy cards. They were definitely among my favorite stuff from that time. I really did enjoy. I was there right from the get-go, down the card avenue for sure.
Well,
but yeah, the seal has just sort of popped on that one. But other than that, I love it.
Well, how often did you go as a kid go down to the 7-Eleven or whatever store it was with your dollar bill and get 4 packs of the top cards with the stick of gum that the flavor lasted 2 chews, and then you go through it, and I got I got them somewhere around here, but yeah, I got a case just full of those because you went out there and you had the blue border, you had the red border, you had the yellow border, the green border. Sometimes the border told you what the card was because I think I can't remember if it was blue or green was kind of doing more of the behind the scenes stuff. So that was getting us kids sucked in more about this is how it's made, and I'm sure influencing many future filmmakers. Because not only did they see the magic, now they're being told how the magic was done with these cards and other media that they had coming out. And it's like, I want to be like George. I want to forge ahead. And I spent many a dollar at the 7-Eleven until 7-Elevens went away. We don't have any.
Yeah, I had a magic market that was at the corner. And that was where some of those were later on. When I was really young, when the movie first dropped in 77, 78 or so, I don't know which cards I would get from where, but I know when I got a little bit older, it'd be Magic Market. And yeah, there was different colors for different series. So blue and red. The blue is obviously the very first series. Those would be the most important because those are the first appearance of those type of cards and characters. And if you have any of those cards, let me tell you that make sure you do take care of them. They have become rather sought after, especially if they're in good condition. The centering is an issue because back then the technology is not there to make good quality cards. So most of the problem with cards are they're off center and they're not printed properly. So even if you have them, they may not be worth a ton of money, but they are really cool to have. Once they got to
like the infamous C-3PO image.
There's so many. There's so many stories and so many. But yeah, there's different. The colors change with each release. So there was like the blue was first, and there was red. When they got to orange, which I think is the 5th one, that was about the time that I was totally all in, and I was like trying to get. But even then, as a kid, it was so hard to find missing cards. You would open a new pack and you'd be like, I got all these. Like, you're missing like 3 cards. It was crazy. So you'd have to go to school. You'd have to find someone to trade with. You usually have to trade 2 or 3 good cards that you didn't want to trade, but you have duplicates of. It was fun times. Fun times.
The art of the deal. And of course, they always came with a sticker, right?
Those did have stickers, yeah.
Yep. My dad always pounded in me, don't use the stickers. Don't use the stickers. So I still have all the stickers too.
Wow, man, Barons. collection is just incredible. Yeah.
If I knew we were going to talk about cards, I would have it. Maybe for for the 50th anniversary, which will be an apt one to bring it out. Just
Yeah.
remind me.
Yeah. Let's do that.
So,
Let's do that.
Baron, bring your cards out, or else.
Let's bring the cards out. Yeah. So, and we've shown a lot of these cards. I did a video in, I think, 23 on the cards a little bit. I know that Jedi Bill had binders of cards that he showed off in one of the shows. So, I mean, it just never gets old for me. I always had a thing for the cards in comics, obviously. So, yeah, that's good. Baron, what else do you have within arm's length that you could share to everybody?
Well, since I showed a big figure again, I don't know if I showed this off, but it's not Star Wars. It's Empire Strikes Back, and one of my favorite characters. Even though, again, how many of these favorite characters did we have that only had limited time screen? Boba Fett had a very limited time screen, but yet we are all big fans of them. Well, when it comes down to Imperials, how can you not like General Veers just because of the actor? Julian Glover playing that, and all the things that he was in, and how prim and proper he was as an officer. You could believe he was an Imperial officer. He's cool and collective inside the AT-AT as they're traveling along, and he's not afraid of Vader. You can see that. Why? Because there seems to be a mutual respect, because this guy doesn't mess up. This guy is very pro-Imperial. He's very loyal. And, you can tell Vader has respect for this guy. And so it's like, wow, you have a character like this that Vader seems to have a respect for. He must be something. Of course, the lore was extended. The book, he died. But, West End Games brought him back. They probably forgot to read the book. But then, of course, they started doing some retconning about, he got injured, lost use of legs, stuff like that. But still, what a great character. And the lore, how they made him into such a tactical genius when it comes around to using the AT-ATs. And according to the lore, where AT-ATs weren't necessarily at first thought of highly. It's like, oh, you're walking around that, there's all that. And he proved a lot of people wrong, and they weren't happy. Of course, it was a Walgreens exclusive, so when I saw it in Walgreens, it's like, okay, I got to get it. I got to get it before they don't have it anymore. General Veers, great guy.
And I do love the fact that us old Gen 1 Star Wars fans still call them AT-ATs, and people from the prequels on started calling them AT-STs and AT-ATs and whatever. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. There's a commercial, and the commercial called them AT-ATs, so I don't know what to tell you. Right. They were training us on how they wanted things pronounced. I don't know what to tell you. So.
Exactly. George said it was okay. And it's like, how dare you shame us for using using AT-AT. I don't care if someone calls AT-AT. I don't care if someone calls the AT-AT. What you mean? It's like, we know what you're talking about. It's the Scout Walker. Yeah, it's an AT-ST, but we always call it the Scout Walker. Or the Chicken Walker.
I don't think I heard the Chicken Walker too much.
That's what they called it. Yeah, they called that. That's what they were calling, because his first appearance was in Empire Strikes Back.
The Empire's landing.
It's new AT-AT, the all-terrain armored transport from Kenner. Batteries not included. Action figures each sold separately. You can make AT-AT walk. Its legs are big enough to crush obstacles. You can move AT-AT's head and pretend to scan for rebels. AT-AT has a cockpit for Imperial Commander and AT-AT driver, and laser machine guns. When you push a button to fire the laser cannons, you activate battle lights and sounds. There's even a troop compartment. New AT-AT from Kenner's Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection.
Return of the Jedi. The Scout Walkers attack. The walking, fighting Scout Walker prepares to attack. This great Star Wars model has walking action. Push-button controls to stand and attack. Swivel head, movable side cannons. The Scout Walker can fight his own battles, win his own wars. But will he? Only you can decide with Star Wars toys.
They're in like a big case. There's a lot more of these, and they're a little bit thicker. They're kind of a chromium card, but we talk about like the obscure characters that we love. One of them, here's a picture of Bosk.
Oh, I thought he was such a neat character. Again,
super cool. All the bounty hunters, man. Just anything I had to do with the bounty hunters. I loved IG-88. I loved all the bounty hunters.
When you saw them all lined up there, and it's like, dang, what are these guys' story? And it's like, how dare you just give us like, 30 seconds of their appearance for this quick scene. And other than Boba Fett, Bosca's the one that has a line. You can't understand what he's saying, but
Yeah,
this is Admiral Pirate.
he says something.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are 2014s. They're Topps Chrome. And for those of you who know, yes, there is a Thrawn card, which are not actually always easy to find. But they're chromium, so you can see how they have the glare on them. They're hard to find in great condition. So again, make sure you take care of your stuff, folks.
Always.
Very important. So yeah, it's good.
What I love too is when they came out with the wide vision movie cards. Topps.
Yeah, that's true.
They took the stills and they turned them into the widescreen. It's like now you're getting the cinematic experience in a card. Topps really was on the ball with this. I mean, they started out doing them like baseball cards, the cheap cardboard, stuff like that. Who knew, right? Who knew? It's like, okay, we'll just put that out there. We've done it for Happy Days. We've done it for Mork and Mindy. The same things, Battlestar Galactica. But that came afterwards, obviously. But who knew what a monster that would be for those top cards? And they realized that when they brought them back, look at what they did. Oh, yeah.
Now, these are sealed. I have them sealed up. They're a set of the Phantom Menace ones. They did one for, actually there's multiple sets. So they did one for the major prequels, but they did a couple of legacy type stuff, things like that. So again, these are, if you want just regular sets of cards, they're not that expensive. You can find things very manageable. And listen, if there's any positive, if there's another positive where you feel like Star Wars is kind of on a dip right now, or maybe Star Trek's on a dip right now, or Doctor Who's on a dip right now, it's a buyer's market for stuff that you might want.
Yeah.
They're not moving it. And the other trick too, Baron, which I think you'd agree with too, especially if you go to a specialized con and they have stuff from one of the other IPs, ooh, that's an easy buy. So you go to a Star Trek con and they happen to have Star Wars stuff or vice versa. That person just happened to take it probably because they want to get rid of it. That's a deal. That's an offer. That's an offer to be made right there. I'm telling you.
Well, it's the nature of the business. It has ups and downs. You buy low, sell high, and that's the way it is. It's like there's no interest in this no more. People don't care. People weren't carrying this. Well, obviously they cared more about the old stuff because the new stuff isn't coming out. But there was a lot of new stuff that did come out in the early day that was pretty dang good. It's just like some of those cards you were showing. The artwork was great. It's like you sit back and wonder, where was this stuff when we were wanting it? With like the sequel trilogy and such, and why weren't you doing posters like that for the movies instead of the ones that we got? I think we talked about that before, about how about movie posters, and in many ways the sequel trilogy is kind of blah compared to, you look at the original Star Wars one that was done by the Hildebrand brothers. You take a look what they delivered with Empire Strikes Back, the various ones, the teaser ones, the main release, Return to the Jedi. I mean, the teaser poster, so simple. Holding a lightsaber up, and then there's the unfinished Death Star. It's like, okay, what's this story going to be? A hell of a teaser trailer, poster. I mean, how could you not, as a fan, not really get excited? And, maybe a casual fan going, okay, what do we have here? It sucks you in. So
I will say though, they tried at times. I remember the teaser for Last Jedi was the red and it had the single lightsaber and stuff like that. But you got to make a good product to back it up. And I will say too, like Ginger Ninja, who was on with me this morning, he does the opening show for Star Wars Day with me from Japan. He has been commissioned. He's done Star Wars original sketch cards. You talk about any of these that were easy to find; those are hard to find. There's only one. There's only one. He only drew one of each card. And he's given pretty much a pretty broad brush of things to pick from to draw. So even in those brand new sets and things that are being put out right now, you can find OG, original trilogy, original prequel stuff, characters that you do like. It just may also be mixed in with other stuff. So it depends on how you want to put your collection together, what your interests are. And again, that's what a day like today is supposed to be about, is to talk about the good stuff that we love and share and tell stories and memories and things like that. So,
well, yeah, exactly. There was some good stuff that came out for the new stuff. I don't want to throw shade to it at all. because this is not what it's about. But the one thing I thought the sequel trilogy did good, except for I didn't like all the open areas. It just didn't make sense. But when they did the evolution of the Star Destroyer, and when I saw that, I go, okay, yeah, it's twice the length of a regular Star Destroyer. It's got all the lines we're familiar with, but it's still different. But it's like, okay, boom. It has that natural progression of it. And that's why, of course, I got this Black Series one. I have my open one back there. I kept this one closed. Actually, I think I got this at that toy shop in Las Vegas, the one that's always on those pawn shows and stuff. Like, I think they even had a show based on them. Got it for cheap, along with a Koloth from the Playmates Koloth for Star Trek, the original series. It's like I couldn't believe how cheap the was. It's like, if I had more money and such, I'd just go nuts. And even the Star Wars stuff. But yeah, you're absolutely right. This is now the time to go out there and buy if you love it. Even the classic stuff. Well, I think what it's doing though, the classic stuff, the older stuff, I think that's becoming a little bit more because people are gravitating back to the prequel stuff. They're gravitating back to the original series stuff. That might be the stuff that might start getting to be where the money, because that's where the interest is. And unfortunately, the new stuff, not so much. They're going to Ollie's or Five Below or whichever one discount places that they want to dump it off. But it doesn't mean that they don't have good things. It's like you can buy these figures. Say you're like the Big C from WKRP, Mr. Carlson, and you're playing with your toy soldiers on the desk at the age of 50 years old. Well, us being 50 years old, it's like, okay, I'm gonna bring my toys on. Yeah, I got these new sequel ones, but I'll make them a different character. We can have fun. It's like then the wife opens the door, you get embarrassed. It's like, go away, don't look at me.
Scene out of Spaceballs. No, but they do have those. You're absolutely right. Because at Ollie's, I will tell you, they're marking them down again. By the way, because they can't move them, so they have some of these Black Series and these cars. So I will admit, they almost got me because they have a Tarkin, and he's so beautifully articulated. It's so beautifully designed. And he's down to like $5. And I'm like, I don't really need more loose figures. I don't need more loose stuff, but he's worthless in the box. He's only worth having out to enjoy the fact that you're looking at this beautiful Peter Cushing transformation into an action figure. So yeah, they're there too. And I will say that I agree with you that say again?
You disappoint me. You disappoint me. I would have grabbed it. It's like Tarkin, I'll grab two of them, one in the box and one out because, again, just like you said, it's Peter Cushing, it's Tarkin. He was a great villain for Star Wars. He was the main villain for Star Wars. And we never got him as a kid. It always upset me. Why don't we have a fucking action figure? And my dad goes, well, he died. And I said, so did Obi-Wan.
Yeah. They'll probably still have them. There's an aisle full of stuff they can't move right now. So I felt like I was not on the clock to make the decision. And I would say to address your market analysis, because obviously supply and demand is the issue there. Right. And I would agree that there's been some demand side interest in the old stuff, in like the key old stuff. So first appearance type stuff in comic books, obviously those first 6 issues. First appearance of Lando, first period, that kind of stuff in comic books. In toys, it'll be in the box, intact. It'll be sealed type stuff. So that stuff is rapidly getting more rare, and they grade them. They, very more condition sensitive. However, if you're like, well, I just want, a reader copies, or I just want some of the original. I still think you can find a lot of that stuff pretty economical. And now, like we said, now is the time to buy. Go into a store and see what old stuff. I actually just picked up some more. So anytime I have an extra budget. So for instance, I go into a comic store, I'm going to spend X amount. Let's just say they don't have 1 or 2 issues that I'm looking for. Now I have free reign to go and just find something that I'm looking for. Right. I found a couple of the original Marvel run of I found a Conan book. I found a Battlestar Galactica book. And I'm not looking for those particularly for any other reason, just having them, just the fun of having them. So, one was 5, one was 8. They're not a ton of money. They're not super cheap because they're not easy to find, but they're out there. So I think that would be
Well, they are.
the advice I'd have as well. Yeah.
I like reading them. I don't
That's
want
good.
them put into a thing where you can't read them again, unless you have 2 copies. One for that graded, hang on the wall. The other one so you can sit back and go, "This is a damn good story."
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
my
you have to do
attitude.
both. You have to find that balance of what you want. With comics, I think that because there is at least digital access and there is trade paperbacks, that I have been able to actually succumb to the grading. I never ever had any of my books graded until the
Really?
pandemic. So
Oh, really?
no, never. I never graded my own book. Never had. I only had like 3 or 4 graded books ever. Just wasn't my thing. But during the pandemic, as someone basically said, you really shouldn't leave money on the floor, kind of thing. And when I showed my wife that if I had sell this graded book, I could buy her a cow. I could pay the mortgage. Things kind of change. I can when you can trade a Batman comic for the mortgage, you're like, I can always get that comic book again. You know what I mean? I can always get another copy. They're not that rare. So
forget the mortgage. It's the cow that's important. Get that cow.
Oh, we have cows. Yeah, cows.
Yeah. Gotta get another.
All right, let's do a few. Let's do a few more items that you got within arm's reach. Let's see what else you got going on.
Let me brush some dust off. If you get more love, I should probably clean it up.
The dust is free. It's a bonus. It's like a special feature.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I know I showed this before. I'm going to show it again because I'm rather proud of them. It's the only ones I have from those early Kenner years that are still in the box. And these I probably should, like you said, degraded and have them all. I think they're still in very good shape. But of course, I got my TIE Fighter. And, I got ones I played with, but this one was never open for whatever reason. My dad somehow got these. I think it was a gift given to him. Look at those wonderful toys. And he kept them hidden away. And which was a good thing because as time went along, here we are almost 50 years later. I mean, these are close to 50 years old themselves. And it looks like they're straight off the shelf. So it's like, I've never graded. I maybe have to ask you about that, how you go about doing that. But yeah, I mean, how wonderful to have that. I mean, this, like I said, it's the only one I got from that era that's still in the box. The other ones, can't forget the little Millennium Falcon that they had. Let's see if I can get this right. And as you can see, it's still in good shape. I mean, this is...
Yeah, we have one of those. That's beautiful, though.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen these and they're all beat up. I mean, there's like a little chip and all that on that one. But the thing I'm proud of the most is this one.
Ooh,
the Imperial
yeah.
Star Destroyer. But this is why I'm the proudest of. How many still have the Rebel Blockade Runner?
Wow. Adult collectors are the best.
Yeah. I mean, I took very good care. Again, I played with this regularly. And it's still in great shape. I'm amazed how well this has held up through the years.
My stuff that I played with is a shambles. My stuff, I look at it every day. I showed it off in a show here recently, and I have droids that don't have their stickers. I have things. I have a mess. Is what I have when I was a kid. Man, I was brutal on toys.
Yeah, I see that they have stickers available you can put on your droids again. And yeah, mine is worn. They wear out as you play with them, right? You even if you're gentle, they get wear and tear through the ages. They weren't necessarily the best made, but they were well made to last this long. And I even had my kids play with some of them. I just put the ground rules down. You treat them nice or else. I'm thinking about doing that.
I've shown him before, but I'll show him again.
Oh, please.
Yeah, there's no sticker left.
Oh yeah, that's my R2. And the dome. Look how the dome always seems to.
Yeah, he's all beat up. I mean, he's an OG. He's from 1978, folks. I don't want to tell you. He works. Mm-hmm. He'll click. We just don't do too much with him.
Yep. He looks just like mine. I got that was one of my first action figures. It was Luke, Leia, R2, and Chewie. Was it those? Maybe it wasn't Leia. Maybe it was C-3PO. It was Luke, C-3PO, R2, and Chewie were my first figures. And yeah, mine looks like that. Poor R2.
I have my first Boba Fett. And I
Mm.
have the small head. I have the small head Han Solo. That was the first one.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I have a good dozen or so that I keep out on the shelf right across from me. I can kind of look over
Mm.
and see them and stuff. So, I have my original. I have a TIE fighter. I have a cloud car, stuff like that. I see. So, yeah, we've shown off a
Okay,
few
you
things.
okay, you did it. I'm gonna have to walk off screen for a moment and do something here. I'm gonna have to do that. You did it. You did it. Now, we were talking about before about the sticker and how it dried
Hmm.
up and opened up. This is the greatest disappointment I have. This is the greatest disappointment.
Oh no.
Remember when you went to see the theater? They get
Yeah.
to see the trilogy. You got that trilogy edition, and I saw the back there. It's like they got a Tarkin figure coming out. I was so excited, but through time, they must have used some bad glue, and it came apart. I got to figure out a way. How could I have it go put on there and make it look good? I mean, I'm not doing this for selling. This is for my own. So I got to figure out how to get that so it's attached to have that Luke Skywalker for that Return of the Jedi. I was the second to last one to get it. In fact, my then wife and she got one, I got one. And I looked at her and I said, "This shows you what type of collector I am." Normally, greed go, "Yeah, we got two, right?" I took a look at the guy behind me. I go, "You know what? We don't need two of these. Why don't you give that guy that one?" So she because she didn't really care about it. I'm the one
Hmm.
that cared about stuff like that. So she gave the guy that one. So he got the last one. We technically did have the last one, and that's the type of collector it is. And I think that's something that's in the Star Wars community. At least back then, we're magnanimous to each other. We loved each other and love each other. And it's like if I don't, I'm not a collector for going out and making the big money. It's nice to know if you have something valuable, especially for insurance reasons. But it's like, no, we got to share this love.
Yeah,
And
we want to enjoy life and enjoy your journey together for sure.
right, so
For
I
sure.
mean, not to pat myself on the back, but I thought that was now I kind of regret it because of that. But I really don't. I really don't. I just wish mine
So
was
it's
one that dried
the
up.
figure. The bad news is the figure is separated from the card. There's really not a way to put it back on the card without it
Yeah,
becoming sort of like
right,
refurbished. So it
right,
sort of doesn't have the same kind of. It has the value of sort of an open.
right,
It's an intact open, which I think is better than loose with no card.
right.
So it
Yeah,
it be- it it becomes sort of a decision if you want to just how you want to display it or not.
right.
For me, I think on the last one I had was like that. My son ended up taking it. I had stored it in like a comic book bag. I used like a Silver Age comic bag and just put it in that, folded it over. It's
Hmm.
just kind of, I didn't glue it back on. I just kind of tightened it up enough that it basically just sat in there neatly, wouldn't get further damage, but you could still have it up, propped up on a shelf so you could see it and stuff. So that was kind
Hmm.
of our strategy. If you glue
Yeah,
it and stuff, that's it. It's like, yeah. So it's kind of like, when you glue
yeah,
or you try to fix some sort of blemish on a comic book, you might as well it's
yeah.
actually worse than if you just left it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's
Unless
why I
you're a
haven't done
professional, know what
anything.
you're doing.
Yeah, and that's why I haven't done anything to it. And again, I'm not doing this for value. I mean, maybe the
Yeah,
next
yeah, yeah.
generation might go, "Hey, what can I get for this?" But I will. I
I
don't
know.
care. I'm
I gotta
saying,
make sure
here.
I gotta keep the number for your kids and all this stuff becomes on the market.
Okay, sure. I mean,
someday
yeah. I mean,
someday we'll all be gone. And we're like, I know well, who's gonna get what. I keep trying to
mm,
let my kids take some stuff. And
yeah,
Star Wars has not been the thing they've wanted. Now, my one son did. My
hmm,
one son
yeah,
he's a prequel baby, right? So now we're 20 years out, 20-year rule,
hmm,
what you loved 20 years ago. So, yes, he
hmm,
has glommed on to a couple of key things that were
hmm,
really kind of bigger deal when he was a kid rather than some sort of high dollar item or whatever. And
hmm,
then my son that went to art school, he got the cards. So I had my blue, you mentioned the blue trading cards.
yeah,
He's got all of those. Now I don't know if he still has them or not. He may have sold them or given them away. I don't know. But he
hmm.
wanted them and that's where they went. So yeah, I don't
Hopefully, it'll
know.
help
Don't
with
know.
inspiration. Being that he's in the art school, it's like take the
That
inspiration
was why
off
he
of
took
that.
them. Yeah. That's
Hmm.
why he took them. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean,
For sure.
I lost my R2. They came out with the Power of Force. They had that taller R2 figure, kind of
Hmm.
mimicking the one that
Yep.
Kenner had with their electric. Yeah, I lost that one to one of my daughters because I guess it's a kind of a sweet story. Actually, she's my stepdaughter, and the first time she came to visit down at my place, she was scared to come in. She wouldn't get out of the car, and my the long suffering gave me a call on the cell phone. I go, oh, where you go? You're out there. What's up? She goes, you got to help me. She's not coming in. So I grabbed that R2, knowing that she was a big Star Wars freak at such a young age, and I showed her, hey, it's like I forgive the analogy, but hey, look, candy, right? And she took a look at it and she kind of glommed onto it, and she made it known that if I ever go, she wants to make sure she has that because it was a fond memory of
Oh,
that meeting and all that. So after a while, I just sat back and here you go, you can have it. My other daughter wanted
yeah.
it too, but it's like it means more to to her than my daughter, and I'd rather have it go that direction if it has some significant meaning to it. So,
Yeah, I
and that's
agree.
what I'm
And
more important with. I'd rather have collections go to the people that it has meaning to than money.
yeah, I really would love stuff to just keep living on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
to people that care will enjoy them and have some experience with them the way we have. I agree.
right.
So,
Yeah.
what else can we show Baron? What else you got there on your desk?
Okay, you were talking about action figures. Remember this case? What an
Oh
awesome
yeah.
case that is.
From Kenner, it's the Star Wars mini action figure collector's case. Action figures sold separately. The collector's case holds 24 Star Wars action figures, like Stormtrooper, R5D4, and Snaggletooth. It comes with 2 plastic trays to keep them in, or you can turn the trays over and display all your figures in action poses. You can pack up Star Wars action figures and take them with you.
The Star Wars Mini Action Figure Collector's Case. Action figures each sold separately. From Kenner.
There we go. And before I go with this one, I got this actually in one of the comic book stores many years ago. I didn't know they even had an Empire Strikes Back one until, maybe 10 years ago or so. It's like I saw it for sale. It's like, I got to have that. So I think there's even a Return to the Jedi. But what's great about it is, of course, let's open her up. You talk about those figures.
Oh man, he's got them all in there.
Yep.
Look at
I don't have the
that.
cloaks on the Jawas. The cloaks are in a different area because it's that vinyl, and I didn't want them to get damaged and stuff like that. Eventually, it would start to crack on you and such. But there's, of course, that's the first tier because this came with 2 tiers. We're gonna put this. I'm not gonna knock it all over the place. And of course, you got to follow up. Now, notice there's 2 Snaggletooths in there.
You have a blue one.
I got a bluey. You got it. Because that came from the Sears
Wow.
Cantina thing, and that's where all my aliens came from. Was that Sears Cantina cardboard backdrop? And then I eventually, as a purist, eventually I got the other Snaggletooth to go along with it because you can never have too many aliens. So there's my Star Wars one. That's my Star Wars one, as we see up here in Minnesota. There, yeah. And
Man, that's I saw
so
we got to see a blue one, guys. We talked
yeah.
about that in 2023. I was on with Troy, and we were going through the Sears catalog
Mm-hmm.
on the internet, and we were talking about the ad, and that was we had to rely on to get stuff. So
Right. I think there was only one ad that had the tall
yeah,
Snaggletooth,
yeah, it
but
was the
then
Sears
it went
ad. It was a
away.
cantina. And it was only in that cantina set. You couldn't get
Mm-hmm.
it anywhere else. And I
Yep.
remember Troy was explaining how he'd send his family out looking for this blue Snaggletooth because that's the one he didn't
Mm-hmm.
have. Of course, they didn't
Yeah.
realize that it was in this special set through Sears. So he was sending people on a
Mm-hmm.
wild goose chase because you couldn't get it at Toys R Us or Kmart or wherever people were looking. So
And I think that one even in worn because it's worn a little bit. It's got some of the paint on the foot, whatever, kind of off. But I think that still has a higher value because of the rarity of it. Uh,
oh,
of course,
100%. Oh yeah,
you know,
this
of course, you got to kind of go in there, and you got the usual suspects from Empire Strikes Back. What's nice about this is you can flip this case over, and they got the pegs, so you can use this as a stand. I've never done
yep.
that. And of course, as always, folks, let me put you there. Okay, you got that second tier. Got to have that second tier.
Wow.
And normally I'd start putting it away, but wait, there's more. Of course, they have all the stickers you can put in there to identify who's where, what, and why. But I don't have it obviously for the Empire Strikes Back because I got it on a in a comic book store. But this, oh, maybe this is the Empire Strikes Back. I don't know. So there you go, big huge one.
Yeah.
Now let's turn it around. Oh, I'll bring it back the other way again. But yeah, there's the Jawa, and I didn't have the plastic key for the Jawa. Those are the rare ones. But yeah, I took that cloth off because it's so hard to work with it. But just go back to that one. There we go. And I tell you, I loved the AT-AT driver. When I was a kid, I was just going mad trying to find them. It was hard to find, and finally did. Got two of them because you need two of them in that cockpit. That's what they showed in the movie: a pilot and co-pilot walking along. So yeah, you started talking about action figures. Okay, those are my played with. Uh, some close to 50 years old, 40 years old action figures. And I don't even have my Return of the Jedi ones. They're in they're in the big Rebel cruiser, the Rebel transport case that they have. And I still have the box for that one too. So I have the box. I don't have any of the cardboard. Why are you being difficult? Oh, it's a power droid. Power droid, be nice. Yes, a power droid, not a gonk droid. I remember hearing that back in like the 90s. It was like the very late 90s, and I heard one of the parents talking to their little kid. He goes, "They're not gonk droids; they're power droids." It's like, whoa! Talk about a purist.
Yeah, Lucas changed that, of course, right? Because Lucas put that in the movie, and you're like, ugh, I don't know that I like that, George. But he changed a lot of things on us, and we have our mixed feelings. So
well, I always had that gonk, and it's like that. I suppose that's what when you were in there, you always heard that gonk, gonk. You don't know who was actually saying it, but it was all part of those droid noises you have on there. And I think because on the screen they showed the power droid. Oh, that's a gonk droid. So it's like, okay. Eventually, it turned it. For us, it was always a power droid until the 90s.
Yeah.
Gonk.
It was the thing with whatever we were down the rabbit hole with all of the novels and the cards and the comic books and the gaming stuff, all the stuff that was building in EU. It was all very consistent. Pretty much. I mean, there's pretty much. And that's what we lived by. So when they want to make changes to it, that's where the resistance comes from because it's been a certain way for decades.
Right.
Especially when you live through the hard times. You become a little bit more cynical if it gets changed after the fact. And I think that's just human nature for sure.
What are you changing? Is it what is it going to fit in? And yeah, it was an organic evolution of the lore. And people want to sit back and say, well, you have this inconsistency here. Well, if you want to look at it, the inconsistencies came from Lucasfilm with what the decrees they came down and told people. As I was telling on a show with Mike on Pop Talk, I said the evolution of the timeline that they had for Star Wars universe, they have the Clone Wars. You have this big space, but they don't exactly tell you when it happens, but you can kind of guess of the purging of the Jedi. It didn't happen right away, so everybody was going off of that. Okay, the Clone Wars was an older date. We're going to go with that, and then we're and such like that. They were right in on it. And what happens? George changes it. Well, that's his prerogative. But then they want to point that, oh, that you guys didn't know what you're doing, blah blah blah. Trust me. I mean, okay, this isn't the one I was.
Every one of the comic books and the novels had a timeline. It would put them in there in the print. You would see the timeline in there, so you could, even if they were make changes, you could at least figure it out based on what that book or what that comic book or story was about. Here you go. Here's a great example. Yep.
Yeah, the Bill Slasvik's. Of course, this is the second one they did. I actually, if you saw it, I was looking around. I'm trying to find where the paperback went because I'm going to show. I was going to try to show the original one, but yeah, right inside here, straight from Lucasfilm. I'll just show it up here.
Every time I enlarge him, he robots a little bit. I don't know why that happens.
I'm sorry.
Stupid stream. Not you. It's a streaming thing.
I know, but right away they have the timeline in there. It's kind of blurry, right? Kind of explaining it. And they, as you kind of go along here, is like 55 years before Star Wars. Anakin's born. Mon Mothma born in 48. The Clone War ends in 35. And then they have Han Solo's born, and then the fall of the Republic. They don't have a date on it because George says, I don't want to have a date on that one. So Yeah, because I'm planning for something with the prequel trilogy, but here you go. You know,
Poor
I know it's
George.
a bad George Lucas. It was a bad George. I'm sorry, George.
It's not
I'm
a
sorry for.
horrible George Lucas. He is so much quieter in real
Yeah.
life. It's a different
Hmm.
sort of persona than you would expect. So
Yeah, definitely.
for sure.
Yeah, he's so laid back. Whenever you hear him, he's just kind of always laid back, and even when he gets excited, he's laid back. It's like-
I think it really is. He is just kind of an awkward nerd like many of us.
yeah.
He's a
Mhm.
little bit like that, and some of us have evolved through some of our insecurities and stuff. But I feel people get the wrong impression from me, and it's like, no, I'm a mess. I'm a mess in
Mhm.
real life. So don't think that I'm, and George is one of us in that way. And I feel
Right.
bad for George too because he was so much more of a technical nerd. He was really
Yeah.
into cars, you know what I mean? He was really into machinery of film. He was really into
Hmm.
like editing and all of that. And he just kind of fell backwards into this phenomenon. And
Right.
I don't want to tell people. I also feel like he was a very good idea man, but
Oh yeah.
sometimes directing might have been out over his skis, and some of his best
Right.
stuff was when that was someone else leaning into how to get the best out of performers, and he
Right.
didn't always have that skill set for sure. We see that with Phantom
Right.
Menace, I think, more than anything
Yeah.
else. Phantom Menace, I think, is just very weakly directed. I think is my biggest
Hmm.
critique because we see Natalie Portman and Liam Neeson and Ewan
Hmm.
McGregor just not really emoting at times. Like we're
Right.
not really looking for much there. So yeah,
And when you're dealing with a child actor like Jake Lloyd, you really have to, they really need directions at that age, and he's
yeah.
not one that was able, faster, more intense, faster, more intense as the
I
show
know,
goes
yeah,
along,
I know.
and it's like Jake Lloyd was obviously in other pictures, but still young, learning, and it was not the right environment for him. So I never ever thrown shade at Jake Lloyd, never. And I don't think any of us did. It was when they started saying about how he was bullied by us, I never understood where was
Yeah, I
that?
don't know where that came from either. I don't. I actually feel more betrayed by it in hindsight than I do
Yeah,
in the moment. Like I feel like I've seen what Natalie Portman's capable of. I've seen Liam Neeson do some things long before then and after. I've seen
yeah,
so that actually is where some of the betrayal is like, George, you could have done a whole lot better with this. And then of course George was manipulating it. Like, let me go back and let me edit this scene and say, George, calm down. Put your freaking stuff on the shelf, man. Let's let it be, let it breathe, get on to another creative venture. But
well,
you know
yeah,
what?
exactly.
Your has aged well. And
Mhm.
I've grown out of my shade for the prequels, even though I have to admit I don't watch them
Mhm.
even in my May, even in my Star Wars month.
Mhm.
I don't watch Attack of the Clones, and I just don't. Now I'm gonna watch Revenge of the Sith because we'll be doing a review of that to honor
Mhm.
today. It's 20th anniversary of that. Last year we did
Yeah.
Phantom Menace, and we did Return of the Jedi. We've done some of those films, so yeah, we'll do that. Did pay homage to where it all came from.
See,
So
and
for
that's just
sure.
it. I do have that urge to, I want to watch Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. It's like, yeah, because it was fun. It was,
Hmm.
you remember to get over those obstacles. You see George Lucas doing American Graffiti, and you're going back and still watching. You're going, George, why aren't you doing more like this? And you bring your love of the machinery, the fast cars and such into Star Wars. That used look into Star Wars. You're a good detail man in that area. You're a good storyteller, not necessarily a script writer, but a storyteller, and you have a cinematic eye. Um, and I always kind of felt betrayed that after Star Wars, he never directed again until The Phantom Menace, which obviously made him very rusty. I know he shadow directed Return of the Jedi. He wasn't happy with Mark One or how he pronounced his name. Um, so he was constantly over his shoulder, which I think was what made that film suffer slightly. But it's like, George, you got this talent. You could have gone on in some different areas, uh, and bringing that love of what you grew up with, and you're sharing it with people that echo that love. And that's why American Graffiti was a hit. That's why Star Wars is a hit.
I wish he had produced differently. I wish he had done what Spielberg did, right? Spielberg knew he didn't have time to do Goonies, Poltergeist, but he knew how to help get those things, perfectly packaged. And George could have leaned more into pulp and sci-fi adaptations that needed that type of help, right? Could you imagine, like we were just talking about Android. We did a cult rewatch of this Android film that was done in 83, right in this heyday of Lucas. Imagine if Lucas had actually signed on as a producer for that and kind of helped scale it up from a technological presentation, just not even a ton of money, just a little bit of money, what that film would have looked like. And obviously it would feel very much like a Blade Runner film, in my opinion, right? Would have felt even more so in that universe. So another example
And
I'd say would
it
be,
would also be kind of. Oh, sorry. Sorry. My apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say also a little bit of a nod back to THX 1138.
Yeah, yeah. I also did a rewatch here recently, working on a rewatch of the 1995 Judge Dredd with Stallone, and it just feels produced by the wrong people. Like I just feel like every little thing is there's so much that's good about it, and then everything is so bad, and it's like the music is off, the feel is off. It's a vanity project for Stallone. It's like if Lucas had produced that film and it could have kept it with that gritty feel, more of a sci-fi lens, a Blade Runner feel. What a tremendous film! Because in a lot of ways, it is way more comic accurate than the Dredd film with Carl Urban, even though the Carl Urban film is far superior. It's a fantastic film and great to watch. So yeah, I think that's the different, kind of our experiences of this with our George love, for sure.
Now, okay, just I know it's not on the subject, but do you agree with me? Everything leading up to where he takes the helmet off is beautiful 2000 AD. The look of Mega City 1, how things are going. They had the Block War that was right out of the comic series, and all that. Everything leading to that was we got Judge Dredd. Then he takes the helmet off, and that's when it goes.
Well, it's on target, but it doesn't feel right. It feels like Back to the Future. It needs to feel like Blade Runner or Dark City or something like that. And it's just the feel's not right. So I think that my criticism in the first part of the film, forget about. Well, she takes her helmet off right away. Hershey takes her helmet off right away, which I didn't like that either, by the way. But that first opening sequence, yeah, you're right. But when they're flying around the city and all that, CGI is pretty wonky. The music feels like a Spielberg film. You're just like, it doesn't feel right. And it's only 2 years later we get Fifth Element, where the CGI is really, really good. So it didn't need to be what it was. It just needed to be produced by the right people. And again, it was always going to be a vanity project because they were chasing Arnold. They were chasing Stone. But that's where the problem is it's too much of a vanity, because you could see his eyes through the helmet. The helmet's not quite right either. So
no,
I agree, but I agree in ways where I feel like the train does come off the track when the helmet comes off, obviously. But
we need to talk about Judge Dredd. I'm talking about the whole universe. Sometime we got to talk about that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do a thing on just Judge Dredd for sure. So, anything else we could show off real quick before we head out the door, my friend?
Oh, wow. I barely even scratched the surface of all the stuff you made.
Well, never going to be able to scratch the surface, guys. And for those of you who don't know, man, we could just go with a camera around Barron and just walk around. It's like a museum of just incredible stuff, because he was able to keep his stuff when he was young. He's been able to be a responsible adult collector. It survived time and journeys and adventures, for sure. So
yeah,
go ahead, my friend.
Moves, stuff like that. Oh, and talk about a gateway into magic.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I have the paperback version as well. This is the hardcover. I need to have a hardcover because I'm kind of a completist. But yeah, I actually got this at a convention for $30 way back in the day, because I already had the other ones. My in fact, let's just go through the rest of them. My big complaint about this one is it never had the script, but they sold the script separately in another book with all the storyboards. But I mean, just
just the Ralph McQuarrie art and stuff like that is worth it. I mean, it's just incredible. Look at the storyboards, guys.
Yeah,
the designs.
Right. You got the artist. The Star Wars sketchbook, which I do have. Oh, okay. Sorry, didn't mean to close it there. Here we go. I mean, you get that. You have the sketchbook, which is it was just great, but really nothing very selective. But through this whole book, you got that, and of course, you got to follow through. I'm not going to show the picture, but this one titillated because they have one of the concept drawings of Ula in there, and she's topless. I could not believe they put that in there. But again, I won't show that one. But again, here's a safe one. You can kind of see again all the designs, and then there's a script in there along with it. I don't know. I can't see anything, so I hope I'm holding it up right.
You're doing just fine. It's a biker scout. I'm good to go.
Yeah, there we go. And and of course the script is in there. But I would remember best. I'm going to just a second here. I mean, just reach over. Yeah, let me turn this off. You don't need to see me reaching over. That's a disturbing sight. It scares even me. But we talk about completist or the collecting aspect of it. Oh, now I can sit down. It was just out of reach. Oh, yeah, you can hear the noise. Something was a toy.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had that baby.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to get very many things. That was one I had. I had that so long, and yours is you got the box and everything. See, you get a responsible adult collector. I was not. I was a rough and tumble kid who let everything just played with. It got ruined. It's just a mess. Sad. It's a sad state of affairs in the pop history and the lore. What could have been.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't keep a lot of boxes. Like I said, I got it for the B-Wing. I got my B-Wing in the box. Of course, no cardboard and all that stuff. But just in there, the Rebel Transport, I got the box that goes in there. I have the Death Star, the Death Star playset. I still have the box, but that's being used to hold a bunch of model railroad train stuff in it. So one of these days,
oh my gosh,
it's good.
People just want that box. They don't even care about the
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah. Now, I put a lot of the accessories somewhere else. I think I got it in my Imperial Transport. Unfortunately, as time goes along, the foam is starting to go.
I was going to say my foam rotted. My phone rotted out. Yeah, that's when I ended up selling. I sold a lot of my original Star Wars stuff. 2005 or so, the heyday of the prequels. I had a chance to sell, and it was all just cannibalized stuff that was left. It was like the Dagobah playset, but the foam was rotted out and the snakes are missing. And, I have Millennium Falcon, which is just in pieces and shambles. And so a lot of that stuff I had gotten rid of. My cloud car survived because it's pretty much intact.
Yeah. I got the box with the cloud car too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the cloud car too, a box. So I mean, I don't have many, but there are some that still did. But usually the boxes went gone because back then you're playing with it. It wasn't a collecting thing. It was you had them out, you had them displayed in your room. You were playing with them. What do you need the bloody box for? So out to the garbage. But for some reason, some of these boxes survived. I don't know how. I'm happy about it. I'm happy.
Maybe for 2027, we just do show and tell with Baron and just do like little 2-minute clips of just different things that are around there. Because there's so many things that we could do. We wouldn't have to worry about we'll just clip them into these little tiny segments all throughout the whole day. It would be so much fun. It'd be funnier to do it that way. Because I am going to drop a lot of shorts today. I'm going to have a lot of shorts that drop because I think that there are many these conversations that are worthy of sort of like attention.
Mm-hmm.
And the shorts are really good little commercials for the larger conversation, or it's a good little tidbit, if you will. So the commercials, is how I treat the shorts. I don't know, maybe that's the right way to talk about shorts, but that's how I treat the shorts. And there's been a lot of those over the last couple of years. So that's what a lot of today, you'll see shorts that date back over those last couple of years. And hopefully we'll do that from this show as well.
Yeah, what I would do is maybe I would pre-record it for you. I'd just go through with my phone and do like what was his name? I can't remember it, but he had his basement. He had all his memorabilia from the old science fiction films and such. And then you had Bob's basement. He had his where they go through and everything. Maybe I do that. Make sure I get the room all sorted in there so it looks good, and I can go walk through and just pull stuff out and show, and then send it to you so you can clip it in right. And I'll do it in portrait mode, not landscape mode, because I'll have to SMRT.
If I ever to just accidentally end up in Minnesota, though, I know a basement I'm going to go visit for sure. So, yeah.
Well, I don't have a basement, but that's okay. I know I live in Minnesota, Tornado Alley. I don't have a basement, but you know what? That's why I have a dachshund. She digs the hole if there's a storm, and I just follow her.
Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
the Star Wars stuff has lived on, though. Basement or not
Yep.
basement, we're good to go. Still going on. So,
Yep.
well, folks, I hope you're having a great Star Wars day. I hope you're going to hang out with us the rest of the day, enjoy some of our shows, some of the different live streams, some of the shorts and clips, things that we put together today. Over on other channels, make sure you check out the description. There's several other channels, including this guy will be live over on Pop Talk on Pacific 414. They're going to do a special thing on Star Wars Day as well. So make sure you check all this out. If you miss it live, hey, it's okay. Be here tomorrow. You have all week. Enjoy the rest of your Star Wars month. Make sure you stay tuned and reach out to this guy. Maybe you want to see something that they didn't even get to. Hey, Barry, do you know anything about ...
Oh,
yeah, he's going to know.
I'm more than happy to talk. Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about lore and be civilized about it, I am more than happy to do it.
Let's do it.
It's like, because I was there. I was there. You were there. We were there. It was basically the mother's milk that was fed to us to get us into this rabbit hole of science fiction fantasy of Star Trek, Star Wars, Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, Last Starfighter, Indiana Jones, even though, obviously that's more cliffhanger, but still it's in the same vein. Babylon 5, Star Trek The Next Generation, all that stuff. We wouldn't really necessarily have all this if it wasn't for a film that should not have been popular.
I argued and I did a video, I think it was 2023, Marvel Studios would have gone broke. I mean, they went broke eventually in the 90s anyway, but Star Wars saved Marvel. Talk about Roy Thomas saving the day. Man, holy cow. He is the one who brokered that deal, and a ton of the cash came flowing in from Star Wars comic books. So, tons of great stuff to think about and reflect on. Eric O'Sullivan deserves the credit. He referred to us as we're Generation 1. We're Gen 1 Star Wars fans, and I think that's a very interesting way of putting it, because hopefully we're not coming across as being condescending towards the prequel fans. And now the Disney sequel. Hey, listen, to each their own. We should be able to at least enjoy and want good stuff together. And if everyone could hear everyone else, I think we'd all be in a better place. And that's what today's about. Yeah. So
I like that G1, and I don't want to use it as a kind of thing. I want to have as a symbol of saying, hey, this is someone who's been around. Maybe we should pick their brains and figure, what was it that started all this? Because nothing about what I am about this is condescending unless it's stupidity. And I'm more than happy, again, if people are, courtesy and all that, it's like you got the warmest Baron there is in the world. You come in with an attitude, well, then you get warmest Baron ever.
The warmest Baron in the world. It seems like it should be a shirt. It should be a shirt or something. The warmest Baron in the world. That's funny.
Okay, I think I'm going to do that. Thank you, Pops. I'm going to.
All right, folks, you guys take care. Have a great Star Wars day. May the Force be with you. Take care, everybody. I am Pops.
Midnight. Time for a complete breakfast with my Count Chocula.
You can't count.
It's time for my strawberry-flavored Frankenberry.
Huh? Cuckoo. Star Wars stickers! They're here! Wow, I've got the spaceship.
A collection of Star Wars stickers. One in specially marked boxes of these monster cereals.
Star Wars stickers!
Now, it's here. The excitement, the adventure of a new force at breakfast.
We'll call them C-3POs.
New C-3PO cereal from Kellogg's. Twin rings hazed together. For 2 crunches in every double O. A delicious part of this nutritious breakfast. Now you can experience the taste of Kellogg's C-3POs. A crunchy new force at breakfast.
May the Force be with you.
I had fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
I
time after the Death Star plans.
Kenner's Star Wars large-size action figures sold separately with movable arms and legs. C-3PO, R2-D2, Han Solo and the Stormtrooper.
You'll never find the planned Stormtrooper.
You can push R2-D2's secret button to open his hidden compartment.
Plans are safe and the Stormtrooper's gone. Thanks, Han. I didn't get this medal for nothing.
Large-size Stormtrooper, R2-D2, C-3PO, Han Solo, each sold separately from Kenner.